Dockerfile, right. So, the Docker when I am writing, if you remember the concept of Git, right, when using Jenkins, okay, we were having one YAML file, right. What was this YAML file doing? All the instructions what has to be done was loaded in this YAML file, right. Instructions were given in this YAML file. Just quickly recall back about the YAML file, because that was the last concept what we have studied, right. So, we were talking about this. See here in YAML file, right, in for CI/CD pipeline as code concept, we used to give all the instructions here. First which stage to do, then what next to do, and in each step what is the command to be performed, right. This is what we were doing in pipeline as code. We were giving all the instructions in this pipeline as code, right. So, same way, in the same way here as in Jenkins, to execute some steps automatically, we were writing some code, we were writing some instructions, right. That file is called as a YAML file, which contains the instructions to be executed automatically. Same way, even in this Docker, we have a file called as Dockerfile. Yeah, here we have a file called as Dockerfile. So, what it does here, in Dockerfile, I will be writing some instructions. What does the instructions contains? What I want to do here, see, I will write one code. Let us say I wrote hello world. I wrote one small program, print Python program, I wrote hello world. Okay, this is my code. This is my code. I want to take this code, I want to convert this code to an image, and then I want to load into a container. So, these sequence of steps, we can write it in a file. Okay. And what is the language which I am writing here? Where should I execute it? All that we have to mention. If you remember the YAML, I again just go back to that YAML file to show you the demonstration, right. If you see here, what am I telling here? See, where you want me to execute this? Main branch. Which platform? Any CPU we are telling, right. You can mention which platform you want to execute, which operating system you want to execute. All that we were able to do that using Jenkins. Same way, even in this Docker file, we can specify, we can tell which language, this program is written in which language. Accordingly, its syntax to execute this, to create an image, to create a container, all that we will be putting inside this Docker file. So, this is the game changer. Like YAML file there, here Docker file is the game changer. It has all the power, all the instructions are written inside the Docker file, right. Let us try to understand this Docker file and all the contents, what all things we mention in the Docker file, right. So, Docker builds images by reading the instructions from a Docker file. A image is built by reading the instructions from the Docker file. A Docker file is a text file containing instructions for building your source code, right. We are making a build. Build means there what we said about build, a program written .java convert into an executable format .jar, something like this. Same way here, if I have a .java program with me, if I do a build, it will create an image for me. Okay. So, Docker file contains all the instructions which are required to convert or to build an image from your source code. That source code is being packed using the Docker file. What are the different sections in the Docker file? The first step is from. In caps, we write this in from, and image. Defines a base for your image. We will see this in detail. Okay. Then run command executes any command in new layer on top of the current image, right. So, basically we said that when we studied about image, we said that image has lot of layers, it has lot of layers. So, if it's an existing image, we will tell what is the base of that image. If not, we will give the new image. If I just moving forward, I will show you the simple Docker file. So, this is my simple Docker file, right. So, I am giving from, okay, then I am giving the commands run, then I am telling copy, this is my program, right. Then I am telling the environment Flask, then I am telling the port, and I am giving the command here, which will be executing it. Okay, we will see this in detail, but just I am showing you how does a Docker file looks like. If I have a Python program, hello, small Python program, hello.py, see, I have hello.py, right. I want to run this automatically, I want it to convert an image, create an image for that. So, for that I am using a Docker file, right. So, we will come back to this and see, right. So, from defines the base of your image. If you see here, from Ubuntu. So, which operating system or which base do I have the image, right. So, then run command, I will give the command working directory, sets the working directory for any run. Where do you want me to run this command? In which directory, that we have to specify. Then copy your source and destination, right. Copying new files or directories from source and adds them to the destination path if you want to move some files from one to the other. Okay. Then cmd, the command lets you define the default program that is run once you start the container. Once I start the container, which one should execute, right, that is given here. Each Docker file has only one cmd and only the last cmd instance is respected when multiple exist. Okay. So, here if you see, I am talking about these things. See, I am having from, run, copy, environment, expose, cmd. So, here we tell the command. Basically, it means flask run -- host, this IP address, port and 8000. Local, I am running it in local, right. So, it has different sections. We will try to see it, we will try to understand it. Okay. So, once we see that example, I will come back again here to explain you what are these commands, right. So, now if you see the default file name, yeah, this is very important. Okay. The default file name for the Docker file is Dockerfile, Dockerfile. This is the default name. There is no change in that. Okay. It is default. You always have to create a file as with the name Dockerfile without any space, and only D is capital, remaining all are small, without any extension, right. Same as we did in Jenkins. We used to have a Jenkins file there where we used to write everything in that. Same way we have Docker file here, right. So, there is no extension for this. If you are using Linux, you have to just give vi space docker Docker file, that is it, right. So, using the default name allows you to run the Docker build command without having to specify additional command flags. Okay. If you are not giving any text file, any .py, .cpp, it is very easy for us to execute this Docker file. It is a standard being followed, right. So, now let us see the simple example. Let us understand this one small program and let us understand what I have written here, right. So, the following example code shows a small hello world application. See, from Flask, import Flask, app name Flask, because I am having a web app here, root, the default root, define hello, return hello world. A small web page, a small output, just I am displaying hello world, nothing else. A simple hello world program, I have it with me. Okay. Now, for that I have created a Docker file, right. This will help me in creating the container image, which has all the dependencies installed, and that automatically starts your application. Okay. Let us see section by section what is this. The first one is Docker file syntax, this line, right here, Docker file syntax, right. In C programming, we use this in C++, hash include, we give some header files, right, pre-processing directive we call it. Same way, even in Docker file, we have such kind of a Docker syntax parser directive, right. The first line to add to a Docker file is a hash syntax parser directive. This is optional, right, but it instructs the Docker builder what syntax to use when parsing the Docker, which syntax to use when you are parsing the Docker file. So, it is a default one, we use this always, right. Then the base image, the second one is the base image from. So, the line following the syntax directive defines what base image to use. Okay. So, now I have to tell you one interesting point here. When you are creating an image, you always have to use some base image. And Docker Hub has so many such base images. Okay, Docker Hub has default base images. So, before creating an image, you have to refer to some base image which is available in the Docker Hub. Okay, only then you can create an image. So, what I am telling here, from Ubuntu colon 22.04, what does it means? The from instruction sets your base image to be 22.04 release of the Ubuntu. Ubuntu has a release version 22.04. So, take the base image of this Ubuntu environment from the GitHub, from the Docker Hub, and use it as my base. Right. So, all the instructions that follow are executed in this base image and Ubuntu environment. Right. So, it is very simple. We will see more examples to understand what all different versions we have here. Right. In Linux, I think you are aware we have different flavors. Right. So, Ubuntu is one. So, what I am telling here, from Ubuntu 22.04, use the default base image of this version of the Ubuntu, as simple as that. Right. So, the notation here Ubuntu colon 22.4 follows the name tag standard. Name tag standard always. So, in when we create Docker image, right, we will be following this name and tag. We will follow this format. Okay. The next one here, if you see, then I have the run command, right, the environment setup. The following line executes a build command inside the base image. Inside the base image, again, you think image as a text file, you think it as a file, right. So, run apt get update and apt install python 3 -pip. So, again, I am talking about a container. We have to install that software here. Python should be available here, right. So, we are installing that. The run instruction executes a shell in Ubuntu that updates the apt package index and installs Python tools in the container. Okay, you get my point, because container is an independent process. We already studied saying that container are independent isolated process which run in their own environments. Container is independent of operating system. It is independent of any software. It can run independently. So, for a container which contains an image, for this image to execute, it needs some software settings. It needs some software installations, which are available, which are readily made available with the help of this run command. Right. So, this will install the Python in that container. Then I am installing the dependencies. The second run instruction install the Flask dependency required by the Python application. So, I am giving run pip install Flask 3.0. See here, run pip install Flask 3.0 version, 3.0, any version after that, latest version, right. So, basically we are creating a container, we are installing all that required. That is why a container can be shifted from one OS to other OS very easily. A container can be executing in one system to other system very easily, because whatever I am installing here, see, generally in our machine we have the installations done. On top we write code. Whereas when I am using container, this I am not doing it in my machine. It is independent. It is independent of that machine what I am using. Okay, so we are executing the program, we are executing the container, we are running the container. When I am moving the container, automatically these things are happening. So, when I am doing these things, let me move from machine 1 to machine 2 if I am moving, right. In machine 2 this will execute. When I am moving it to sit environment, in this environment this will execute. So, it is not dependent. Container is independent. You just move the container, it will take care of it will take care of the task. It will take care of the installations required and it will execute the program and give you the outputs, right. So, we are actually a software only. Container is like a software as a service. We are moving that service and it is doing the installations, everything in that, right. So, the commands are also written. Okay, but one prerequisite is that the pip should be installed, otherwise we cannot, because I am using the pip here. Pip should be installed in the operating system. Then copying files. The next one, if you see here, I am copying the code, because from code I wrote the code. First step is to write the code only, only then I will create an image. So, the code has to be copied inside this image, right. So, I am doing the next instruction uses the copy instruction to copy the hello.py file from the local build context into the root directory of our image. I might have written the Python in my local machine somewhere in some folder. Now, I want to copy that into my image. Right. So, for that I am using copy space hello.py/. A build context is a set of files that you can access in Dockerfile instructions such as copy and add. Okay. After the copy instruction, the hello.py file is added to the file system of the build container. Now, understand this, what we are trying to do here, right. See, I wrote code separately in some folder, code.py. Now, I am trying to create an image. Using Dockerfile. So, I have to copy this code via Dockerfile into the image. Image is the, again in simple terms I will tell you, image is the compressed version of the code. Code is here, it has lot of dependencies. If I compress them into a lightweight, it becomes an image, right. So, that is why I am trying to copy that code into the image. Now, I am setting the environment variable, because for this Python program to run, for this code to execute, I need some settings. What is the setting that I am giving here? See, setting up the environment variables. If your application uses environment variables, you can set environment variables in your Docker build using the env instruction, right. Let us say to run a Java program, I have to give class path, that has to be given here. So, I am giving here env flask app equal to hello. This is my environment variable. This sets a Linux environment variable, we will need it later. Flask, the framework used in the example, uses the variable to start the application, right. So, we need to use this Flask. Next one is the port. Now, once I am converting that code plus the dependencies into an image, right, it is a web app. So, I want to expose it, I want to see that code. So, we are using expose instruction that to on a port, right. So, the expose instruction marks that our final image has a service listening on the port 8000, default port 8000, right. It is not required, but it is a good practice, because we know already the default port is 8000 in local machine, okay, 8080 or 8000, sorry, right. So, it is a good practice that if you give the port, then after giving all this we have to start it. See, I gave the base image, I gave the instructions to install, I gave the code link, I set up the environment variable, I have given the port also. Now, I have to give the command to execute it, right. So, after this, starting the application, finally, the cmd instruction sets the command that is run when the user starts a container based on this image. So, the command is something like this, cmd we have to give everything in double quotes in square brackets. Indirectly it means flask run -- host port, this is the instruction, but we are giving it as pieces in double quotes, right. This command starts the Flask development server listening on all addresses on port 8000, right. This way we can do that. So, this is the Docker file. So, what all things I have now, what should I do now? I should have one code like this, hello .py, one Python program. Second one, I should have a Docker file. That's it. After this, I have to just execute this Docker file. Automatically, it will create an image and a container. See what happens after this, right? Now, I have to start building. So, I have to use the Docker commands. To build a container image using the Docker file, right, you use the Docker build command. See, Docker build -t test : latest. Okay, so what is this? Test : latest. Okay, this is the name and tag. Okay, this we have to understand. This is a very important thing in image names, right? Image name. Every image will have some name, right? So this test is the name of the image, and it is the version of that. It means I can give something like this. I can give something like this: ABC : V1. Means ABC is the name of the image, V1 is the version. You are giving a tag to that image V1. Later, as a second developer comes, he will make some change. He can use the same name like this. Okay, this indicates this is the name of the image and this is the tag. Okay, so that's what we said here. Name, we gave it here, right? See, it is following the name and the tag, which we use it for images. Okay, the -t test : latest option specifies the name and tag of the image. Okay, and there is a single dot later at the end of the command sets the build context to the current directory. Build an image in the current directory. Wherever what is the current directory, there only you create an image. This means that the build expects to find the Docker file and the hello.py file in the directory where the command I am executing. This is common sense, right? In the folder where I have my hello.py, in the same folder I should have Docker file, and in the same folder I have to execute the Docker build command, right? So this dot indicates that current folder you have to access. See, if those files are not there, the build fails, because it is referring to the same current directory, the directory where you have your hello.py and where you have your Docker file, right? After the image has been built, you can run the application as a container with Docker run command, right? See, Docker run -p, the IP address and the port, and what is the name of the image that I am giving here. That's it. Now you go to browser and you click http:/localhost 8000, you can see the Python command, you can see this output there, right? Whatever is there in hello.py, you can see hello world as the output. Okay, I hope you understood with this example what we are trying to include in the Docker file. Docker file contains all the instructions which it has to do. So basically, image is created. Once the image is created, using Docker run, we are creating a container. This container is just a box which will contain the image test and its version latest. Okay, right? So we have lot of other commands we will try to see. Okay, so once you give the Docker run command, it will execute. You can see the output there. Okay, so this is one important aspect of Dockerfile, where you can write the code. Dockerfile contains all the instructions required to execute that code and create an image for you. Okay, I hope you understood what is this Dockerfile, why it is very, very important. Right, now you see these commands here from the base image, the run commands, what I have to do, working directory, which directory you want to set. If you see, I have not mentioned any directory here. I have not given any directory because it is default directory. But if you want to, if your program, if your code is in different directory, you have to move to that directory and then execute it, right? Then copy the code from source to destination and then CMD, the command which you want to execute, right? So this is about Dockerfile, very, very important file, like Jenkins file, which will automatically do the job, like the YAML file, which contains all the instructions. Dockerfile is one which plays the game, which will help you in creating an image and converting it to or starting a container, right. So, this is the whole story about Dockerfile.